Get out!
Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to an 0811 replay. This is one of mine and it's the Sherman Jumbo, which I don't think I've actually had on the channel before. I haven't had it all that long as a tank, but it's basically one I bought not to go through to the tier 7, which I've had unlocked for ages. I unlocked that through the E8 a very long time ago. I've just never bought it, but I basically bought this, which is the other tier 6 American medium tank, just out of curiosity, because it's a very different sort of vehicle. It's basically a pocket heavy, and what I mean by that is it's got a pretty damn nice amount of armor for a medium tank, but it also doesn't move particularly fast. The only other tank that was kind of like that was the 3601H. When it was a medium, it had more speed, but again quite a nice amount of armor for a medium tank. However, that is now just straight up a heavy. So this is steps, and it's encounter mode, which is going to be rather critical because, yeah, a lot of the time in encounter mode you see, well, you can see derpiness of all sorts on this map in whichever mode you're in, but encounter mode especially, this map is probably one of the few where, even though a cap rush in encounter mode is usually a stupid tactic, occasionally it can work in this map because everybody else is too busy faffing around on the far side of the map and just can't get over in time. The only other map I can think of where actually in encounter I see capping more than feels usual would be mines, and that's because the amount of cover in the cap, people are sometimes reluctant to go in there, and if you've got one side that controls the hill and the cap, then it's very hard to actually break that. And in that kind of situation it's just like, well, okay, if you want a cap, then enjoy your rubbish victory. Now notice how many tanks are actually over here. There were quite a few tanks heading in this general direction, but a lot of them have just stopped to faff around in the middle, which is not particularly good because, hello tigers, and I'm not top tier, I should have noted. There's also an ARL there, which could have a very nasty gun indeed, but yeah, a pair of tigers. So there's no artillery at least. I can just basically play peekaboo over the terrain, and I should note I'm using the stock turret and the derp gun with this. The stock turret has more armor, so even though I've got fewer hit points than if I was using the top turret, it's actually a bit more armored, although it does also pay a cost in terms of view range as well. But it's quite nice that there's that option between turrets. So, trying to lead the shot a bit there, but alas, it doesn't really, yeah. So I am effectively the only heavy tank here in terms of armour. There's me, a Comet, a Chiri, which has got absolutely no armour whatsoever, and there's some other medium behind us that I'm not sure which one that is. We'll actually just have a quick look because I'm curious. It's the T-33-1. So they've got one person that's just capping. We've got a bunch of people still sort of faffing around in the middle, and a whole other bunch of people faffing around on the left, including our tier 7 tiger. Our Comet's dead already, so it's now me and a Chiri versus 2 tigers. SU-85 is at least now kind of in firing range, but I don't think he'll actually be able to hit anything from where he is. The Chiri is... this is the tier 7 Japanese tank with the autoloader, which, if you can get a soft enough target, is actually... it's the same gun as the tier 6, I think, it's just it gets an autoloader. So I'm just pounding away at this tiger, but because it's the derp gun, I mean, it adds up over time, but you're basically chipping away a little bit of damage, and because you're not penning quite a lot of the time, most targets you're not going to pen with this gun, you have to be just patient basically and rely on your armor or your mobility. So I saw this tiger was pushing on the Chiri. I want to keep the Chiri alive, so I actually turn and face against him and try and keep him from killing, because we don't really have many friendlies. Now the SU-85 has turned up, VK3001H has turned up eventually. The Nashorn and the Cheeto still messing around in the middle. Our Tiger 1 is, I think he's just gone AFK for a moment there, because he was just, look how far behind everyone else he is. Now there's 2 in the cap at this point. This is a strategy that should not really be working for the enemy team, but because our team is being a bit lackluster, frankly, yeah, So, okay, there's the ARL. He's one of the ones capping, so decap him. IS is another one capping. The IS actually, as it turns out, he's got the stock gun, so he's not that much of a concern. But, you know, 2 Tigers and the ARL to worry about. So these guys over here are just, I don't know what's taking them so long. The Tiger decides he's going to come all the way back along there. The Nashorn is not moving at all, and this should be a very easy situation to cope with, because most of the enemy team is concentrated in this one spot. You just encircle them, take them out, boom, win. Not working out like that, however, because I am now... yeah, I'm basically being double teamed by the ARL and the Tiger, and yeah, one in him, but I go forward against the Tiger because being shot by only one target is preferable to being shot by 2. I don't, however, go far enough forwards, so I'm going to get one last shot in against this Tiger, and this ARL is going to finish me off. If I'd been a bit further forwards, I might have survived a bit longer, but anyway. The Cheeto, the Chiri, rather, unfortunately died. T-34-1 is now basically facing off against a lot of their tanks, so I decided to flick around and see what's happening, because after having done that, you know, if our team can't make this a win, this should not be so close. It really, really should not be so close at all. But it is, unfortunately. So the T-34-1 is kind of in the position I was in. He's just desperately hanging on for dear life. I wish I'd stuck with him, but the Nashorn is... This Nashorn was, I think, one of the worst players on our team. You're going to see on the score screen why that's so. But here we go. T-34-1 doing some last desperate damage. Down to the last 2 enemy tanks now. Our team very belatedly turning up. But if not for some fairly... that was fairly hardcore, to be honest. You know, the mediums had to do a lot of work in this one, because our heavies were, for the most part, just not up to snuff, and the E2 is a medium that can, in a pinch, fill that heavy role, but the Chiri, on the other hand, isn't. The Comet isn't. He died very quickly, which is unfortunate, because in that kind of circumstance the Comet could have been rather effective. But here we go, finally, belatedly, we have won. But that was a far harder game than it should have been, and a far harder task for me than it should have been. So let's take a look at the scores, because, yeah, unsurprisingly, I was first place. Perhaps surprisingly, unsurprisingly, I don't know. But that was also a first class mastery, apparently. I got 1k XP, and the Chiri actually came in second place. He did a pretty nice amount of damage. He did 2500 with 3 kills. I did nearly 2k damage with the derp gun. Third place was a KV-1S with 1300 damage, and then there's a bit of a drop off after that. Hellcat with 900 damage. The T-34, who at least hung on for long enough, did 827. Comet did 800. SU-100 did 800. Churchill did 450. Our Tiger did 750. Cheeto did 470. And then all the way down to the Nashorn at the very bottom, who did 0, and he fired once at the very end and didn't do anything with that shot, so he was basically a waste of, you know, a waste of a slot on the team. So I couldn't have done that, like I said, in many other medium tanks other than the E2. Potential damage received 3,585, 20 hits received. So if I'd lived, that would have been a steel wall for sure. It's my kind of a medium in that regard, in that it is, like I said, a kind of a pseudo heavy tank. It can act as a heavy tank in a pinch, but the armament is still that same mid-American tier heavy medium tank armament, so it's not particularly exciting in terms of guns, but it's okay. Sometimes I take out the 76mm gun, but mostly I stick with the derp just because I like the derp. So if you enjoyed this match, which was far harder than it should have been, you can hit the like button, you can leave a comment below, you can subscribe to my channel, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.